Next.
I'm making a video game, and one of my biggest inspirations was the guy who made Kingdom of Loathing 10 years ago, and it's still going. And I just want to know some of your inspiration stories. You look at that and see, you know, if they did that, I can totally go for that too, because you're definitely not the first group of people to quit their job.
Let's do this one.
Cool.
Yeah. Let's do this one down the table and just do real quick, like whose story you saw or read or heard, or whose example you followed and went, that's what I can do.
Oh, big surprise. Jonathan Coulton, really. And that's a lot of what my writing is starting to be on, what I'm really, like the first story I hope to publish is about Jonathan through us. And the more I show it to people, the more they say, make it more about me, make it more my story, because this first cruise really was such a turning point for us, because we met you guys, we knew about Jonathan's story, and it was so inspirational, blah, 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 but we met people here who are in LA, and who said, this is what we do, we are contacts for you, and we think what Alex does is amazing, the videos that he's done, you know, and it is possible for you, so do it. And so we started, and it was something we were kind of thinking about, but that sort of pushed us to actually do it.
I did a song a week for 100 consecutive weeks, so my influence.
Take that, Jonathan Coulton! I've doubled up.
In my very first video, I was such a presumptuous little git that I actually said, if you want to make a machinima video of this song, you can.
Wow.
Did anyone?
No, it was terrible. Okay. It was the first week.
Shut up about Mr. Suckface. We're gonna fight.
Personally, I thought that was an ingenious bit of writing, but I'm 11, and what is this? So, actually, it was my prior 2 employers before I quit that were my inspiration, because they were doing such a terrible job. I'm like, if these guys can do it, really, I can do this.
There's a lot of crap out there.
So, yay.
That's actually a pretty good point. I had worked almost exclusively for small businesses almost my whole professional career before doing this, and I watched a bunch of idiots run their businesses into the ground, and without realizing that the creative was part of it, the business was almost more of it. I wouldn't give up that education for anything, because it was like, you know, don't get some money and spend all of it immediately on a car or whatever. Like that kind of stuff that I was watching these guys do. They would sign a few new clients and they'd be like, all right, suits and BMWs all around, you know, and then we're struggling a month after that. So learn from the dummies. For me, cliche, but yeah, the first time I realized you can do your thing, it's at least possible on this planet in this decade. Was reading about Jonathan. It was the story in, I think it was in NY Mag online, was the first big published thing about Thing a Week. And then kind of also at the time reading Will's blog about, you know, I think I used to be an actor and maybe now I'm a writer and maybe I'm a blogger, I'm not sure. And then he wasn't asking those questions, he was living them on his blog. And it was like, I'm watching this guy figure out his career in real time, and it turns out his career is being himself, and turning that into a job. And those 2 stories, and then you know, I do an online comic. Online comics were sort of becoming a job for some people around 2005, more than a dozen. And I was like, holy crap, you know, first of all, this comic sucks, and I know this guy's making a living, so if he can do it, I can do it. Or these comics are great, and I can see, okay, they've got ads, they've got T-shirts, eventually they've got a book. This is a bit of a roadmap that I can follow.
I wasn't really specifically inspired by anyone to quit and do this full time. I was inspired by, I saw other games being published and I didn't like them. And I was like, I never set out to make a company, I set out to make a game. And then people liked that game, so I started selling that game. And then people liked that game, so I built that further out and out and out. And there was never a point where I sat down and said, yes, here's my 10-year plan. I had a 1-year plan, and then that just kind of tessellated out very nicely.
So spite can be a motivator.
Yeah, it was just kind of like, if these idiots can do it, surely I can. And you know, mostly stubbornness. I refuse to do poorly, so if that means that I just don't sleep for a week, then that is what I do. It's not a good plan.
I could probably bring it down to a talk with George, and the one line, you know, if there's someone inside yourself who wants to be set free, shame on you if you don't do it. That speaks to me more than anything else that Jonathan has done, but he has lived that, and it's such an inspiration that it was probably the turning point. I've been stewing with myself for a long time. You know, I just need more time to work on this fun project on the side. Need to steal some more time from work so I can, you know, get this video done or whatever. And finally, it was just not worth it to. It just wasn't worth it to keep the steady job when I really needed the time for myself more. You got your own mic.
We've been making games together for maybe 7 or 8 years before we jumped off the cliff and tried to make it as what we did for a living. So I don't know that I have real quitting inspirations, although there was plenty of inspirations for what our company became. One of them, Cosmic Whipout. Did you want to talk about that?
Talk about it.
I'll let Andy talk about it.
Anybody hear of Cosmic Whipout? Little dice company, dice game made by a small company in Massachusetts. We both discovered them like when we were in high school and thought, how cool is this little company making these little dice games, sending newsletters out? We could do that.
Yeah, they had this great little mailing list that we could get in the mail.
Pre-internet.
When was that?
80s, early
Yeah.
80s.
Well, I first played Cosmic Whipout in 1981.
Because it's weird how I think from that part of the table down, we're talking about how we've used the internet to make our thing a thing, and
we were pre-internet.
We were on the internet in the very, very early days. I was one of the very first people to take credit cards on the internet and sell stuff. Before any kind of merchant account understood what the internet was. That first merchant account that I got, that I negotiated, person after person after person, nobody knew what the internet was. And I finally got an account as if I was taking phone orders because I knew the credit card number but didn't have it in my hand. And the only thing they could imagine or understand that was if I was taking a phone order.
Anyway, some other influences. There's a small company in Maryland called Cadon Enterprises. They do really deluxe original games direct to consumer, and they were also inspirational to us. A couple other, like Gary was saying, working for Chuckleheads. After I quit my job at NASA, I went to work for a company called Magnet Interactive Studios, which was also a major turning point in my life because that turned me from a programmer into a game designer also. But God, there was such idiots running that company, and same with Telsis. Not that there was idiots running it, but just that we were looking at it going, you know, that's not how we would do it. And my last little inspiration is a comic book by an artist named James Coulton. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. Who did a daily comic strip called American Elf. And speaking of quitting, he just quit that. After 14 years of doing this daily strip, he's left a huge hole in all of his readers' lives where he's quit his job from that. But before that, he wrote a little comic book called Quit Your Job. I wish I'd brought it. That book was one of the inspiring points for me. It was a little comic book about how great it is to quit your job. I remember one panel, the guy after quitting, was like out in the snow and holding up his arms going, I love to quit!